I'm Todd.
I'm Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, nice to meet you. And you are?
Derrick.
Derrick? You guys from here in town then? Or?
Yeah.
If I had to be completely above board, I'd have to, this is our church. If I had to be completely above board, not to say I'd be dishonest anyway, but I'm here because
If anybody needs it, it's her.
all of us.
Because this is a den of sin? Or?
Well, are you guys aware of the amount of sex trafficking that goes on in Southeast Minnesota?
Southeast?
Yeah. Albert Lee falls into that.
I guess I wouldn't.
I know.
This is a place of sex trafficking.
Well, when you put people up on a stage and they take their clothes off for money, that's sex trafficking. And here's the issue.
They put themselves
Yeah.
by the company. That's
You
a
know-
little different.
I don't
force
do-
these
I don't-
girls to come here, and they make a lot of money, and they choose
So,
to do this.
so is doing something that would be considered sinful in the eyes of God because it makes money, make it okay?
So is a policeman sinning in the eyes of God?
If he does something that
When
goes,
he takes a life?
if he takes a life unjustly, absolutely.
Unjustly?
Absolutely.
Well, it says thou shalt not kill.
No, it says thou shalt not murder, so make sure you get it right. There's a difference in the original languages between kill and murder.
There's all kinds of lost in translation. Which Bible are you reading?
Well, I read the English Standard Version, but I go back to the original Hebrew and Greek when I can to find out what their actual translations are supposed to be.
You know.
So,
So what, like, religion do you follow? Like,
I'm a Christian.
you're a Christian, but what?
Absolutely.
Like, what is your church?
What sect of that?
What sect
Yeah.
of that? Yes.
We would be considered Reformed Baptists, not like what you would think of like uptight, fuddy-duddy, and I hate to say it because there are people who would be offended when I say that, but
Especially Southern Baptists.
they're not even that bad. But, you know, like that kind of the weird...
Look at those passing judgments. Hey.
No, I'm going to be honest. I came from a church background where it's like if you weren't in a suit and tie and at every single church service, like Monday through Sunday, you were probably going to go to hell.
I'm telling
And-
you, them
and-
Southern Baptists will-
And so,
they praise the Lord.
and so, our church
It's
holds to core biblical doctrines, but we're not what most people would consider as Baptists. So we are Baptists, but we're not the in a suit and tie, screaming and
I'm interested.
hollering at people, telling them that they're all going to hell because you're not just like us. That's not what we're like. Our church exists for, honestly, is the love of God. And because God has loved us, it's imperative for us to go out and love other people. And being loving isn't just saying, hey, you're okay, I'm okay, God loves you just the way you are. Being loving according to God is telling people the truth. When you tell them the truth, sometimes you have to tell them things they don't want to hear.
Passing judgment on somebody's occupation isn't very loving, though.
Okay, so hitman is okay.
Shit, if he's killing bad people.
Just taking money to kill anybody.
I don't know.
Nazi guards during Nazi Germany, their occupation, even though they weren't necessarily on board with the killing of Jews, Nazi guards were okay because that was their occupation.
I guess I don't.
I can't remember your name. What?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, okay.
I don't see the similarities in girls that are dancing to make money and
But-
Nazi Jews killing.
But that's
Nazis
because you...
killing Jews.
I'm sure there were a few that did at some point, but the point that I'm trying to make is when we look at things from our own perspective, we're always going to see one thing as not as bad as the other. So I maybe never murdered anybody, right? So I'm going to look down on somebody in my own natural state. I'm going to look down on somebody and say, because I've never murdered and you have, I'm not as bad as you. And a murderer might say, well, I've never molested a baby. And so he's going to look down his nose at a child molester and he's going to say, you're horrible and I'm a lot better than you. I may have killed somebody, I may have murdered somebody, but you're a child molester and you deserve to die. Now, a lot of us would agree with that. And I don't know who a child molester is going to look down on because we can't think that low. Some of us could think that low. But the issue is see, God doesn't judge us based on our standards. He judges us based on His standards, and His standard is perfection. God's standard is that you have to be completely perfect to be considered right with Him. Completely perfect to be considered right with Him. And there's only one of two ways to enter into His presence when you die. And that's either through your own perfection or through the perfection of somebody else. And I know for a fact none of us, and you, me, anybody in there, not just because the girls in there are taking their clothes off, more than anything, it's the men who come in here, the misogynistic men who think it's awesome. And a lot of them are probably 20, 30, 40 years older than these girls.
True. But
And they're sexual deviants. And they've got wives sitting at home.
It's not.
Or they've got daughters the same age who they'd freak out if their daughters were on that stage.
yeah, that would. I guess.
Right? And if they didn't freak out if it was their daughter up on that stage, we got a whole other set of problems we need to deal with. And
I guess I don't agree with that. I'm sorry.
you don't think that a guy who was okay with his daughter taking her clothes off for money has a problem?
When his daughter's making $100,000 a year supporting
It's
herself,
not about the amount of money she makes.
but he doesn't have to babysit her.
Right,
You
but
don't
it's
think
not about
that
the money
they
she
can
makes.
have values? You
These
think
are
because
adults.
they're just doing that?
Listen, I'm talking mostly about the men who are in here and enjoying it.
Well, that's.
Okay, so say it's a divorced man who wants company, or say his wife died and he wants company.
Still doesn't make it
Oh,
right.
that guy. I know. yeah.
It still doesn't make it right. The situation doesn't make the sin
So
okay.
If you're divorced, are you considered a sinner also?
Yeah.
Yes, divorce is a result of sin. Divorce is a result of sin.
How do you figure?
Because God said if
You
you get
joined a
married, stay
covenant
married.
with your wife for death do us part. You shouldn't break that covenant. All that, whatever. I don't know.
No, he's actually more right than he probably wants to admit. That's actually that's absolutely true.
Just because I can say that's what they think.
I know you don't
have to
agree with
believe
it. I know you don't agree with
I'm
it,
not
but he's
gonna-
right.
Well,
So,
let's go, Brooklyn.
so
You
the
gotta
biggest issue, Brooklyn, isn't that it's the girls, it's the guys who make it possible for these girls to make that kind of money. They're misogynistic pigs.
You're telling me. How old are you?
I'm 46.
And in your 46 years, you've never been to a strip club or a bar?
Yeah, a long
or-
time ago, absolutely. And I'm saddened by the fact that I did that.
I guess
He'll be here all
we gotta
night.
agree
He'll
to
be here all
disagree.
night.
Sorry.
Tetelestai.